Have you ever felt like you were Jewish and wondered why? Discover how you can unlock the mystery of your family heritage to find out if you have Jewish blood. Today on Jewish Voice.
Shalom and welcome to Jewish Voice. I'm Jonathan Bernis, and I'm so very happy that you joined us for today's program. One of the questions that I'm asked by Christians who love Jewish people in Israel is, how can I find out if I'm Jewish? I just feel so Jewish, they say. Is there any way to know? Well, my guest today says, yes, you can. He claims your history is actually written into your cells. He's a DNA expert that helps people discover their ancestry through DNA testing, and he's the world's foremost authority on DNA testing as it relates to Jewish lineage. Please help me welcome to Jewish Voice DNA expert Bennett Greenspan. Welcome to Jewish Voice.
Hello, thank you.
Have a seat. Thank you so much for flying out and coming on the program. I've never seen a DNA tie before. That's very colorful.
Well, thank you.
I'm really excited about this program. I've been wanting to have you for some time. And this is a question that I'm asked all the time by Christians, and I'm sure you hear too. Can I find out if I'm Jewish?
Well, I get a lot of people asking me if they are of Jewish ancestry. People want to know for a whole host of reasons. There's been a break of continuity in their genealogy. They can't prove, but they have a suspicion. Sometimes when there was a Jewish person who married someone who wasn't Jewish and the children were brought up as non-Jews, that relative, genealogically speaking, is not spoken about, or spoken about the way we used to talk about cancer 60 years ago, where it would be whispered, I think they were Jewish. And so there's a secret within the family, and people would like to know that. And under the right terms and conditions, under the right circumstances, our DNA testing can answer that question.
Try to give us a very layman's explanation. What is DNA testing? How does it work?
Well, essentially, what we're doing is we're looking at one's DNA and we're comparing it to a truth set. We're comparing it to a known series of populations around the world. Now, I like to say, kind of tongue-in-cheek, that genetic genealogy is guilt by association, which means that if you do a DNA test and you only match people from Sweden or Finland, you're probably Scandinavian. And
Likely.
if you only match people from the Middle East, then you probably have a Middle Eastern ancestry.
But DNA, as I understand it, DNA testing is about what we do know from sampling, right? It's about a database of information we do know. It's not about being able to say somebody is from a certain tribe.
That's correct.
We have to have the genetic information to compare against. Is that correct?
What we have to have, Jonathan, is we have to have a truth set. We have to have a confirmed population that we know is Spanish or Jewish or Native American or Sub-Saharan African, and then we would compare your DNA to those known truth set populations and see who you most closely match.
Are we talking about millions of?
No. Typically, to characterize a population the size of, let's say, Ireland, you probably need 200 or 300 people. And when population geneticists look at DNA and look at a country's DNA, what they'll find is they might test 200 people and they'll perhaps trap 90% of the genetic difference or genetic variation with a couple hundred people. Then if they double the size of the survey, which of course doubles their cost, if they only pick up a few more percent of genetic diversity, they call it a day. They say it's enough already. We think we've trapped most of the genetic diversity in a population.
But we have to take a break. When we come back, I want to answer some of the questions that I know people are asking right now as they watch the program, which is, how can I find out if I'm Jewish? Am I Jewish? And you may be. There's much more to explore ahead with Bennett Greenspan, so stay with us.
Have you ever wondered what clues your ancestors left in your DNA that could tell you who you are? By simply using a swab to collect cells from the inside of your mouth, scientists can compare your DNA sample with hundreds of thousands of people from around the globe to see if you match others who are known to be Jewish. With the Jewish Family Finder DNA test, you'll be able to trace your family back 5 generations to determine how many out of 32 great-great-great-grandparents match with known Jewish DNA samples. And have your results analyzed with the largest DNA database in the world that contains records for Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Levites, and Kohanim. As our way of saying thank you for your gift of $300 or more, we want to send you a Jewish Family Finder DNA kit to find out for certain if you have Jewish ancestry. For an additional $40 or more, we'll also include Jewish Voices' Lost Tribes of Israel map and Quest for Lost Tribes DVD. As you embark on a journey to discover your lineage, you can also discover what archaeological studies reveal about the lineage of the Lost Tribes of Israel. Call or click right now, and your faithful financial support will ensure that urgently needed medical care will bring hurting Jewish people around the world hope, health, and the truth of Yeshua. We need you at the Festival of Jewish Music and Dance, August 31st through September the 9th in Mexico City. Jewish Voice will bring soul-stirring messianic worship and ministry to the region's Jewish people at this exciting event, combining professional musicians and dancers, along with volunteer and staff spiritual counselors, as well as street evangelists. The good news of the Messiah will be presented featuring a powerful message from Rabbi Jonathan Bernis. Find out how you can help. Call or click for the details and join us in Mexico City.
Welcome back to Jewish Voice. I'm Jonathan Bernis, and today we're exploring how you can find out if you may be from a Jewish background with DNA expert Bennett Greenspan. Bennett, can DNA reveal if someone has Jewish ancestry?
Clearly, DNA can reveal if someone has Jewish ancestry under some rather broad terms and conditions.
So share some of those.
For example, if your Jewish ancestor was further back than about 175 years ago, and we're using our Family Finder test, our autosomal test, which looks at the DNA that you received from all 32 of your great-great-great-grandparents, we can determine if one or perhaps two or more of your 32 great-great-great-grandparents were Jewish.
You mentioned a word I want you to expound on, autosomal DNA. We're talking about a DNA test that is really quite recent and advanced, different from the classic DNA tests of the past.
Essentially, when we're looking at autosomal DNA is also known as recombinant DNA, which tells you that that is DNA that recombines between the father and the mother, between the sperm and the egg. So imagine that you have a red deck of cards and a blue deck of cards that are brand new, in perfect order, and I ask you to shuffle them one time. That shuffle one time becomes your oldest child. Then I give you another red and another blue deck of cards, which represents you and your wife, and I ask you to shuffle the deck of cards again. That becomes your second child. Your two children look similar because they have the same mother and father, but they don't look identical because when you shuffle the cards, the first time it may be red, 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 blue, blue, and the second time you shuffle the cards, it might be blue, blue, red, red, red. We don't know because they're random. That's what autosomal DNA does. The power of autosomal DNA is that you're receiving some of your great-great-great-grandparents' deck of cards. And it's passing down from one generation to the next generation.
Will every generation be identified in some form?
Up to about that third great-grandparent generation, you should have some DNA from all of those great-great-grandparents. However, once you get to where you have 64 and 128 great-great-great-great-grandparents, you're going to lose some of the signal from the oldest generations. That's why the autosomal DNA test is only good for looking at genetic input at relatives who might have had Jewish or African or Native American ancestry within the last 150, maybe 175 years.
The older forms of DNA testing, and we're not even talking about that old, we're only talking about 20 years.
Less.
A technology that's less than 25 years
Right.
old, either traced through the father or through the mother, and that goes back much further.
That's correct. That is good for thousands of years, but it requires that it be a direct line of descent from a man to his son, from that son to the grandson, from that grandson to the great-grandson, male, 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 male only. So if your Jewish ancestor came from your father's father's mother, we will not be able to see that on a Y-DNA test. Conversely, if your Jewish ancestry came from your mother's mother's father, you can't take our female DNA test to prove that. The only thing you could do in those two cases would be to use the autosomal family finder. However, if you want to see if your lineage is Levitic, or if your Y chromosome is typical of the DNA that is known as the Cohen modal haplotype that we believe came from Aaron, the brother of Moses, the only way you can make that determination is with a Y DNA test.
Okay, so there is a Cohen, a priestly gene. I saw a test. Explain that. You actually list names of people.
Right. So in our system, not only do we match you up with people who have the same DNA as you do, but we name names, which means that if you were to take a DNA test and put yourself in our database, we would compare you to all the people that are in our database, and we provide you their names, and we provide you their email addresses so you can reach out and touch someone.
So you can do your own, really you can do your own kind of family investigation here.
That's exactly the reason we set up the company, because we understood that genealogists would appreciate this technology, would want to take advantage of it, and everything since then has just been a refinement to the original idea.
That's fantastic. One last question. Does the Israeli government accept DNA evidence as proof of Jewish ancestry?
No. The Israeli government does not. They really don't use DNA at all, other than the way the United States would use DNA, which is, when someone wants to come to the country and stay there to prove that the child is really the child of the parent. The Israeli government has their own way of making those determinations, which at this point is really determined by the Ministry of Interior Affairs and the religious ministry. I brought you one of these DNA test kits. I figured it might be cute if I instruct you on how to do this with hopefully millions of people watching, just so that you have an idea of what this is like, and so that everyone understands.
We're not talking about any blood draws here.
We're not
at
talking.
all. We're talking about a very, very simple process.
That's correct.
Okay, I see you getting vials ready, so I'm getting a little bit nervous, but okay.
So what we will typically do is we'll typically scrape the inside of your cheek. And we have a cheek scraper here. You can see that there's a serrated edge.
Yes.
And you're going to scrape up and down for about 30 seconds.
This will tell you what I had for dinner tonight, too, I think.
Now, while you're scraping up and down, I'm going to tell you that we've only had one person who has scraped incorrectly. He scraped the outside of his cheek, happened to be an MD.
My goodness.
That's what we said. And
okay,
so
did I do enough?
I think you did. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back end of this. I'm going to eject the tip. We've now collected your DNA. What we would do is we would take that DNA back to our laboratory. We would, in effect, incubate it overnight so that all the cells drop off of that collection brush, and then we will extract the DNA, at which point we have plenty of DNA. We can do many, many different types of DNA tests if you would so desire.
Same procedure for any of the different tests, the Y, the mitochondria.
That's correct. The kits are universal. What's different is what we do with the DNA once we have it extracted.
It's so easy, and we're going to make this available to you because we want to answer that question that I'm asked so much. How can I know if I'm Jewish. Bennett, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, John.
Very excited about this breakthrough. We have much more ahead, so be sure to stay with us. We'll be right back. Wonderful.
Have you ever wondered what clues your ancestors left in your DNA that could tell you who you are? By simply using a swab to collect cells from the inside of your mouth, scientists can compare your DNA sample with hundreds of thousands of people from around the globe to see if you match others who are known to be Jewish. With the Jewish Family Finder DNA test, you'll be able to trace your family back 5 generations to determine how many out of 32 great-great-great-grandparents match with known Jewish DNA samples. And have your results analyzed with the largest DNA database in the world that contains records for Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Levites, and Kohanim. As our way of saying thank you for your gift of $300 or more, we want to send you a Jewish Family Finder DNA kit to find out for certain if you have Jewish ancestry. For an additional $40 or more, we'll also include Jewish Voices' Lost Tribes of Israel map and Quest for Lost Tribes DVD. As you embark on a journey to discover your lineage, you can also discover what archaeological studies reveal about the lineage of the Lost Tribes of Israel. Call or click right now, and your faithful financial support will ensure that urgently needed medical care will bring hurting Jewish people around the world hope, health, and the truth of Yeshua.
That discussion with Bennett Greenspan, DNA expert, probably the foremost authority in the world on DNA testing as it relates to Jewish people, was just so fascinating. I am so excited about the advancements in DNA, and I am confident that in the future, the Israeli government will begin to accept the results, the findings of DNA testing. It's getting more and more advanced. God is doing a supernatural work in our day, a fulfillment of last days prophecy in uncovering the lost tribes of Israel. I want you to look with me at Deuteronomy chapter 30. And we see in verse 1, God declares that when these blessings and curses I have set before you come on you and you take them to heart, wherever the Lord your God disperses you among the nations, and when you and your children return to the Lord your God and obey him with all your heart and with all your soul, according to everything I command you today, then the Lord, look at this now, will restore your fortunes and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you. Even if you've been banished to the most distant land under the heaven, from there the Lord your God will gather you and bring you back. He'll bring them back to the land. This is a fulfillment of end-time prophecy. Just as the Lord warned that if you disobey my laws, my commandments, I will scatter you, the promise that God also gave to the people of Israel is, at an appointed time, I will gather you back. Isaiah 11 refers to this regathering as the gathering of the scattered or outcasts of Israel. Look at Isaiah chapter 11. In verse 11, we're told that in that day, what day? The last days, the Lord will gather his hand a second time to reclaim the surviving remnant. And he mentions Assyria, Lower Egypt, Cush, and so on, Babylonia, Hamath, the islands of the Mediterranean. And then we're told that he will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah. That began at the end of the 19th century. And then, of course, the restoration of the state of Israel in 1948. And since that time, there has been a supernatural regathering, restoration of the Jewish people. And the DNA results that Bennett Greenspan has been finding is indicative of God's fulfillment of regathering, first identifying the lost tribes of Israel. It's happening in our day. Now, how did Jewish people end up in the uttermost parts of the earth? How did they end up in so many places? I'm often asked this question when I travel. There's Jews in India. There's Jews in China. We found a Jewish community in Zimbabwe. There's a Jewish community in Uganda that we'll probably be visiting early next year. There's Jews in Iran. There's Jews in Iraq. There's Jews in Russia and Siberia, the uttermost parts of the earth. So how did they get there? Well, we see in Deuteronomy 30 and many other places in Scripture that God warned the children of Israel, if you don't obey my commandments, I will disperse you, I will scatter you throughout the nations, but then the promise of regathering as well. Now, I just want to touch on some different dispersions throughout history that has resulted in Jewish people, Israelites, Hebrews, ending up in remote parts of the world. First of all, we have the Assyrian captivity. In 722 BC, we're told that the Assyrians invaded the northern kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes in the north, and they defeated the Israelites. They were in rebellion from God. They were in disobedience, and God warned them again and again and again. They finally defeated Israel and took the kingdom of Israel into dispersion in Assyria. And the Bible doesn't tell us what happened to them. We don't know if any came back. Many may have assimilated, but there's lots of traditions. And some of the communities that we're helping, that you're helping us to reach out to, like the B'nai Menashe in Manipur and Mizoram, India, near Burma, the Ethiopian Jews, the Jews of Zimbabwe, the Jewish community in Uganda, in Somaliland, claim to be descendants of the lost 10 tribes taken into captivity in 722. But that's not the only dispersion. We have the Babylonian captivity in 586 BC. Did they come back? Yes, but we're told only a remnant came back in 516, rebuilt the temple. Many of them stayed in Babylon. And many of the people that we're helping today, that you're helping us to help, claim to be descendants of the lost 10 tribes or descendants from the Babylonian captivity. We also have the Roman dispersion in 70 AD, culminating with the exile of the Jewish people after what's known as the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 AD. Jump forward to the Spanish Inquisition, 1492, where the Jews of Spain were expelled later from Portugal, ending up in South America and Central America, and really throughout the known world, Turkey and so on, and throughout the centuries, Jewish communities wandering from nation to nation to nation. And so there's Jews in literally every country of the world, the uttermost parts of the earth. The good news is that God says, in the last days, I will regather the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And we're seeing that fulfilled before our very eyes. This is a sign of the end. This is a sign that the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, is about to return, the regathering of the lost tribes of Israel.
Called to full-time Jewish ministry? Check out the Jewish Voice Messianic Career Institute. This 2-year, full-time Phoenix-based program is designed to equip you for the Jewish harvest, whether you are university age, a career changer, or an early retiree. Our high-caliber Messianic education will teach you a total of 30 courses in the Tanakh, the Brit Hadashah, Jewish and Christian culture and history, practical theology, and Hebrew. In addition, you'll gain practical ministry experience by getting the opportunity to serve within various departments of Jewish Voice Ministries and engage in hands-on ministry within local Messianic congregations on the weekends.
All across America, there are multitudes of born-again, Spirit-filled believers that the Lord is calling to full-time ministry to bring the gospel, the good news of the Messiah, to the Jewish people. If that is speaking to you, then the Jewish Voice Messianic Career Institute may be the vehicle through which He will equip you to fulfill that call.
For more information and to download an application for enrollment, visit www.messianiccareerinstitute.com.
I can't tell you how much your support means to me personally and to all of us here at Jewish Voice. You enable us to carry out our mission to reach Jewish people anywhere in the world where they're open and in need. And we're doing just that through medical clinic outreaches and through evangelistic festivals and through media. So far, 2012 has been an incredible year. In fact, I just returned from Zimbabwe, where we conducted our very first medical clinic outreach to the impoverished Lemba Jewish community in Zimbabwe. An amazing experience. One of the lost tribes nestled in the bush of Zimbabwe, completely isolated from the rest of the world. I'll be sharing more about this in an upcoming program. Before that, we completed 2 other outreaches already in Ethiopia, and during those 2 weeks, over 16,000 people received free medical care, dental care, eye care, and more importantly, 5,100 accepted Yeshua, Jesus, as their Messiah. And that's just within the first 4 months of this year. Soon we're going to Mexico City, then it's back to India and Ethiopia. So there's a lot more work to do, and it's your help that makes these outreaches possible. With your support, we can continue to reach out around the world and bring help and hope to tens of thousands of Jewish people and others in need. In return, I'd like to sow a little back into your life, 2 gifts that I want to give you. First of all, this amazing DVD that we've offered a number of times in the past on the program called Quest for the Lost Tribes. The discovery of what the prophet Isaiah refers to as the outcasts of Israel is a direct fulfillment of end-time Bible prophecy. So you need to know about this. Also, along with the DVD, I want to include our unique one-of-a-kind map of the lost tribes. This map will show you where various Jewish communities, some long hidden, are being uncovered now, today. Again, this is a one-of-a-kind map found nowhere else. I also want to announce that we're launching a revised and updated Jewish Voice DNA Jewish ancestry test that will accurately tell you if you may be Jewish. It's called the Jewish Family Finder, and it incorporates the most advanced DNA technology that's available today. I am so excited about this new DNA test because such amazing advancements have been made in this whole science. We'll tell you more about this test as our thank you with your gift today. Your gift is going to help us to change the lives of thousands as they hear the good news of their Messiah, receive free literature, and are followed up in disciples. We also have an incredible Israel tour planned after Thanksgiving. We still have a few seats available. So on behalf of my wife and family, I want to invite you to join us as we walk where Jesus walked, as the Bible comes alive on our upcoming Jewish Voice tour to Israel. You can get the information, all the information, on our website. Just log on to jewishvoice.org. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Until next time, as I always do, I want to remind you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. The promise attached to that is they shall prosper that love thee. For all of us at Jewish Voice, this is Jonathan Burness saying shalom and God bless you.
Jewish Voice is made possible by the support of friends and partners like you.